welcome to Nithrania YouTube channel. You're watching another episode of the Game in a Nutshell series designed for explaining the board game rules. My name is Branislav, and in this video we're going to learn how to play Bretwalda from Phalanx Games, who have sponsored this video. Each player chooses a color and takes all the components of one color. This is the player board or kingdom board. These are units. These are called curls, these are tanks, and this is Elderman, and this is the ruler, and these are ships. Then there are control tokens, action tokens, 5 coins, these are value 1 and value 3. Then over here we have kingdom tiles, and each player takes 3 ruler cards. Look at those cards, choose one of them, and place that card face up on your kingdom board. This card represents your ruler with all the abilities and the special abilities. Then set the game board up as described in the rulebook. These are player units and you always use all 4 colors even when you don't play a 4-player game. The pieces of a color not controlled by the human player are considered to be neutral units, as are these white units. Now, these tokens are called Dalk tokens and they represent victory points in the game. Each player places their kingdom token on the 0 space of this victory points track, place the round marker on the first space of the round track, shuffle these season cards and create 4 stacks. These are spring, summer, autumn and winter cards. Then these are Lordship cards, Danes cards and Chronicle cards. Again, shuffle those decks separately and place them on the designated spaces on the game board. Then each player draws 3 Chronicle cards. Look at those cards and choose 2 of them to keep face down on your kingdom board. And return the other one to the bottom of the Chronicle cards deck. Then draw 1 Lordship card and keep it in your hand or face down, hidden from other players. Then randomly choose the first player for the first round, and that player receives this Pretender token. The game of Bretwalda takes place at the end of 8th century in Britain, where each player takes control of one kingdom of England, and since the King Offa of Mercia has died, new Bretwalda must be crowned. So each player, each kingdom, is trying to achieve the victory through controlling the key areas on the game board, completing the chronicles and constructing buildings which help spread the Christianity across the land. The game is played over 12 rounds, 12 season, and each round has 3 phases. The season phase, when you reveal the season card and resolve the impact of that card. Then the action phase, where each player resolves 2 actions, and that's the core of the entire game. And then the priority phase, when the new player for the next round is determined and players may draw new chronicle, new objective card. To win the game you need to collect these Dalks, which is an Anglo-Saxon brooch recognized as a symbol of wealth, influence and power. And you gain these Dalks by controlling those key areas, or completing the Chronicle cards, and by controlling areas with these abbeys, these buildings. For every 3 abbeys you control, you gain 1 Dalk. You can achieve an instant victory if you have collected enough Dalks based on the number of players in the game. So for example, for 3-player game it's 6 Dalks, 5 for 2-player game, 7 for 4-player game. The game also ends when any player is eliminated, and at the end of that season the player with the most Dalks is the winner. Or at latest, at the end of the 12th round, again the player with the most Dalks, most victory points is the winner. During the game, players are allowed to negotiate and they can exchange food and gold, and only food and gold as part of the negotiation. However, there are no rules for this negotiation, no promises are binding. So in the first phase of each round, the season phase, you reveal the top card of the current season. So in the first round of the game it's the spring season, in the second round it would be the summer season. You keep that card face up until the end of the winter of the current year, and then read the effect of the card aloud and resolve the impact. In addition, those 4 season decks have additional effects, Actually, the spring cards don't have any other effect. However, summer cards will bring the Danes units to the game board and those Danes will raid. Then during autumn, Danes units and the neutral units will move and attack. And during winter, you will have to feed your armies. More on that later in the video. In the action phase, each player resolves 2 actions, starting with the first player, the pretender, and then continuing clockwise or counterclockwise, pretender decides. On your turn, you take one of the 4 actions printed on your kingdom board and place the selected action token on the action space. Then it's the next player's turn, and when the turn comes back to you, you have to choose another action which must be different from the first one you have selected. You must take an action on your turn, but you don't have to resolve that action. Those 4 actions are development, collection, Fyrd, which is actually recruiting, and movement. I'm going to explain these actions now in detail. Let me start with this yellow collection action. With this action, you can collect taxes in all your areas with units. You will collect food and gold. You gain gold based on these numbers, these symbols in the areas. So here you gain 2 gold, here 1. However, you don't gain any gold from this area. The gold you gain is placed in your personal reserve. Then place 1 food token in each area that produces food. So that will be 1 over here, 1 in this area. However, there is no food produced in this area. The food tokens are kept on the map. The next action I'm going to go through is this Fyrd action, which actually means mobilization, recruitment. With this action, you may recruit and upgrade units and buy additional lordship cards. Anytime during this action, you can discard any of your lordship cards. For each card you discard, you gain 1 gold. When recruiting, you can recruit 1 and only 1 unit if you are in the city. That's an area with this symbol, the neutral color. Or you can recruit 2 units if you are in your capital, which is an area with this symbol with your color. You can see a better example here. This is a city. This is the capital of the green player. So either 1 unit in the city or 2 units in your capital, and in addition you may also recruit 1 ship. To recruit the land unit, simply pay the cost and place it in the city you control, or 2 units in the capital. And to recruit a sea unit, again pay the cost and place it in a port in the area you control, or directly into the sea region. Obviously only if it doesn't contain an opposing ship. To recruit a Curl, you need to pay 1 coin. To recruit tanks, you need to pay 3 coins, and the same cost applies to ships. And to recruit these Eldermen, you have to pay 5 coins. The number of units in your supply is limited, so if you don't have those units available, you may not recruit them. Or if you really need those units, you can recruit them from any other area on the map. Instead of recruiting, you may upgrade units. You may upgrade Curl to tank, and later you may upgrade tank to Elderman. When upgrading, you only pay the difference in their recruiting price. So when you upgrade from Curl to tank, you only pay 2 coins. So in the city, you may do 1 recruit or 1 upgrade. In the capital, you may do 2 recruits or 1 recruit and 1 upgrade, or 2 upgrades. However, you may not upgrade 1 unit twice as part of the same Fyrd action. So you would not be allowed to take this Curl and upgrade it to tank and immediately upgrade it to Elderman. This is not allowed. In addition to recruiting or upgrading, you can purchase the Lordship cards. Each one costs 2 gold. There's a hand limit of 8 Lordship cards. That hand limit is checked at the end of the action phase. If you have more than 8, you have to discard down to 8. Now the next action is the development action. With this one, you can purchase these kingdom tiles and build buildings. Again, similar to Fyrd action, at any time you can discard a Lordship card and for each one you gain 1 coin. To purchase a kingdom tile, you have to pay 3 gold. Choose one of those kingdom tiles, any one you want, and place it on your kingdom board. It is effective immediately. You may purchase maximum 1 development tile per 1 development action. These kingdom tiles have powerful special abilities, so make sure you choose wisely. And just to remind you, your kingdom board also has a special ability, which is specific to your kingdom. Then, in addition to 1 kingdom tile, you can also construct 1 building that also costs 3 coins. And then you may place a building in any area you control. However, each building has a restrictions where it can be built. You can find the details at the end of the rulebook. But in general, abbeys allow you to gain more gold during the collection action, and by controlling 3 abbeys you gain 1 dalk. With granaries you collect additional food during the collection action. With harbor you can exchange gold for food and vice versa. And with the mead halls you get additional Lordship cards for free during the Fyrd action. You can have maximum 1 building in each area except for capital, where you can have 2 buildings. Again, you can only build maximum 1 building per 1 development action. The last action of the game is this move action, which allows you to move your units and resolve battles. When moving units, you can move all your units, the land and sea units, except for Curls, they cannot move. All units have a so-called movement points. Tanks and ships have 2 movement points. Eldermen have 3 movement points. As I said, Curls don't move, and rulers have their movement points printed on the ruler card. Here it's 3 movement points. Now the cost of movement depends on the border types. When going through this thin line, you only lose 1 movement point. When going through the thick line over here, it costs 2 movement points. These thick blue borders are impassable borders, and this is a separation of 2 sea areas. Going from one to another costs 1 movement point. Moving from sea to the port and from port to the sea doesn't cost any movement points. Since you can move all your units during the same action, after you move the units, you can lay it down to indicate that that unit has already moved. When you move into an empty area without any opposing units, if there is any opposing control token, remove that token and place your own control token in that area. And if there are any buildings or food tokens, you may destroy them if you want to, or you can keep them. When you move into an area with opposing units, your movement ends and you will have to resolve a battle there. If you win the battle, again, place your control token in that area. I will talk about the battles in just a minute. Now let's cover the sea transport. First, if you have any units in areas adjacent to the ship, which is in the adjacent sea area or the port, you can move them to the ship. This costs 1 movement point and it ends the movement of those land units. Each ship has a capacity of 4 units. Then you can move the ship, and ship has 2 movement points. With 1 movement point you can move to an adjacent sea space, and then you can disembark the units to any adjacent land area, and that costs 1 movement point of the ship. If you want, you can also embark units on the ship, but keep the ship in the same sea space, you don't have to move it, and then spend 1 movement point of that ship to disembark that unit to a different land area adjacent to that sea area. When you enter an area with opposing units, a battle occurs. The battle may last maximum 2 rounds, and in various phases of the battle, players will have a chance to play their Lordship cards. Each Lordship card has a specified condition when it can be played, and when you start playing the Lordship cards, the attacker starts first, then the defender, then again the attacker, and so on and so forth, until both players pass consecutively. So when one player passes, the other player may still play a card. Obviously, you resolve those cards as you play them. At the start of each battle round, First, roll the dice. You roll one die for each unit in the battle. Kurls roll the white die. Tanks roll these orange dice. And Elderman rolls the red die. If the ruler would be involved in the battle, you find the die you roll on the ruler card. So in this case it would be another red die. If the defender defends a city, you roll one additional black die. If you would defend a capital, you would roll two additional black dice. Similarly, if you defend the Hadrian's Wall here or Offa's Dyke here from the raiders, the defender also rolls one additional black die. Then after rolling the dice, assign wounds. Each sword symbol does one wound. Each shield prevents one wound. So in this example, yellow player has 3 swords, but the defending player has 2 shields, so the green player only suffers 1 wound. At this moment, again, starting with the attacker, you may play Lordship cards for this sword symbol in the bottom right corner, which means each card adds 1 additional sword, 1 additional wound. You don't resolve any other effect on that card. In the next step, you have to assign wounds to units. Calculate the number of swords minus the number of shields, including any Lordship cards played, and that's the number of wounds you have to assign to your units. Let's say in our example no player played any Lordship cards, so yellow player has 3 swords, green player has 2 shields, so that is 1 wound that has to be assigned to the green player. Similarly, 2 swords minus 1 shield, 1 wound to the yellow player. When assigning wounds, in the first round of the battle, you can assign that wound to any unit. So let's say you would do it to the Elderman here, and the yellow player would assign the wound to one of the tanks. After that, in case all units of one side would be destroyed, the other side obviously wins the battle. If both sides would lose the units, the defender wins the battle. If both sides still have any units available, at the end of first round of the battle, the attacker may decide to retreat first, and they have to retreat to the area where they came from. If there are 2 units from 2 different areas, you can choose one of those areas. The defender may only retreat to any adjacent area they control, so they have to have their control marker there. If there is no such area, they can still retreat to any empty area without any units. If even no such area would exist, they may simply not retreat. The second round of the battle works in the same way. However, this time, when you assign wounds, if possible, you have to destroy units. Here we have 4 swords on the yellow side and 3 shields on the green side. So again, that's 1 wound. However, this time it has to be assigned to Kurl, because Kurls only have 1 health, tanks have 2 health points, and Eldermen have 3 health points. Ruler's health points are marked on the ruler card. Green player has 2 swords and there's no shield on the yellow side, so those are 2 wounds. Since tanks have 2 health points, it doesn't matter how you assign those points, one of those units will still get destroyed. Destroyed units are returned back to the player's supply. If at the end of the second round of the battle both sides still have any units remaining in the area, the defender wins, the attacker is the loser and must retreat back to the area where they attacked from. The wound tokens can be removed from the game board now. They are not carried over to another battle, even if that battle would occur in the same round of the game. If the defender would lose all their units, the attacker wins and places their control marker in that area. The sea battle works in the exact same way as the land battle. Ships use these orange dice. Any land units on the ships don't have any effect on the battle. However, if you lose the ship, if the ship is destroyed, the land unit is also destroyed. Ships may retreat to the port in the same area if that port is under control of that player, and ships in the port may not be attacked. However, if you lose the control of that area, you also lose that ship together with any land units on it. Or even worse, the player who took over the control of that area may actually convert that ship to their own ship. At the end of the battle, the winner of the battle may draw 2 Lordship cards, secretly look at them and either keep one of them and discard the other to the bottom of the deck, or if you don't like them, you can discard both of them to the bottom of the deck and draw the top one and keep that one. The loser may draw 1 card, look at that card and either keep it or discard the card to the bottom of the deck, draw another one and keep that one. And one last note, if there's a battle between the human player and the neutral player, the neutral units, these are controlled by the next player in a clockwise direction. However, these units roll dice but they don't play any Lordship cards. And if there's a battle between these Danes and the neutral units, you don't resolve the battle in a standard way, just calculate the Fyrd value of all those units. That's the attacking value, and with that you would destroy the opponent. So here, these Danes, these tanks have the Fyrd value 3, so that is 6 in total. This is 5, so this one would be destroyed and one of these units will be destroyed as well. You only do 1 round of such battle, and if there would be still units of both sides, the attacker would have to retreat. Few more words about these rulers. Each player has 1 ruler, but you have 3 ruler cards. Each ruler has a special abilities and the individual attributes. If your ruler is killed in a battle, you remove the current ruler card from the game, look at the remaining cards, choose one of them, and that would be your next active ruler. Then place your new ruler in your capital city. If you wouldn't control your capital, place it in any other city you control. If you don't control any city, you can place it to a countryside area. And if you wouldn't even control any countryside area, you can place it in any area where there are no tokens and no enemy units. If you can't place a ruler anywhere on the map, or if you lose all your 3 rulers, you are eliminated from the game and the game ends at the end of the current season. In the priority phase, first you have to determine the new first player, new pretender for the next round. The new pretender is the player with the highest number of victory points, so with the most dulks. If more than 1 player has the same highest number, then the player who controls the most land areas. If that's the same, the player who controls the most capitals. If that's the same, the player who controls the most cities, then food and gold. After that, each player may draw 1 chronicle card and add it to their hand, and then discard one of those cards back to the bottom of the deck. You may obviously inspect your cards and choose the chronicle card which doesn't really suit your strategy. The card is discarded to the bottom of the deck. These chronicle cards are your objectives. You try to fulfill those objectives. You may have maximum 2 chronicle cards in the hand, and when you complete one of those chronicles, you gain a dulk. Since there are only 2 spaces on your kingdom board, you can complete maximum 2 chronicle cards during the game. If after completing 2 chronicles you would still have any chronicle cards in your hand, those would be discarded. After drawing the chronicle cards, you have to check for the end game conditions. If any player was eliminated during this round, the game ends now and the player with the most dulks is the winner. In case of a tie, again, the player with the most controlled land areas, then most capitals, most cities, most food, and then most gold. If all players are still in the game, simply continue to the new round. If this would be the end of the 12th round, the game ends and again the player with the most dulks is the winner. However, based on the player count, if any player collects the required number of dulks, that player wins the game immediately. You don't wait until the end of the season, until the end of the round. The player wins the game instantly. Now, I will talk about the effects of the season cards, because at the start of the next season, you would turn over the next season card and resolve the effect of that card. However, when the summer card is revealed, Danes will invade the area. The card itself shows how many units will appear. In this case it's 1 unit and obviously 1 ship. But before that, players will place bids to influence where those Danes will land and raid. First, players will draw the so-called treasury gold. Treasury gold is the difference on the victory point track from the current position of the player to the first player. So for the red player, that player would now gain 3 treasury gold. Those are these tokens. Green player would only gain 1 treasury gold and the yellow player wouldn't gain any treasury gold. These special tokens can only be spent now during the bidding. Each player must now announce what is their supply that includes gold plus that treasury gold, and then players secretly choose any amount of that gold plus the treasury gold and place their bets into their hand, and once all players are done, they all reveal simultaneously. If you want, you can also bet 0 coins, because all bids are then discarded to the general supply, including all treasury tokens, even if players didn't use them for bidding. Now, the player with the highest bid wins and is going to influence where Danes will land. To do that, draw the number of cards equal to the bid, and let's say the red player won the bid with 4 gold. So they would draw 4 cards. Now choose one of those cards, and that's the area where Danes will land, and then return all other cards back to the bottom of the deck. Now, this is the area, the land area, where Danes will land, and this light blue area is an area where the Drakkar ship will be placed. Also, place the indicated number of units on that ship, so in this example it's 1 unit. Now, if there's any ship in the sea area, the sea battle starts immediately. If Danes win, the land units stay on the ship, they don't invade this round. However, if that sea area is empty, Danes will land in the indicated area, and if there are any other units in that area, the land battle occurs immediately. If Danes would lose now and they would still have units remaining, those would retreat back to the ship. However, if they win the battle, they pillage. First, they remove any control tokens from that area, and then they place pillage tokens in all adjacent areas on the game board. In these areas, players may not perform the collection action unless they have any units there. Then in the next season, when you reveal the autumn season card, the neutral units and Danes will move. All players can bribe the neutral units and Danes, so similar to summer, all players will bid for the influence using the exact same procedure. So first you gain the treasury gold, then players will do the secret bids, and then, unlike the summertime, in autumn all players who placed any bids will have a chance to influence the neutral units. Again, starting with the highest bidder, then the next one, and then the lowest bidder. Players use the gold from the bid to move the units, and the cost of moving those units is equal to their Fyrd recruitment value. So you need to spend 1 gold to move Curls, you need to spend 3 gold to move the Thanks, and 5 gold to move Eldermen. You can use as many units as you can afford, and each unit uses the standard rules for the movement, and each unit can only move once per the entire round. So if you move any unit, again you can place it down to indicate that no other player may move the same unit during this phase. You cannot move the neutral units into an area with your own units, so the yellow player would not be able to move these neutral units into that area, but every other player can. And if there's any color not controlled by any human player, these are also considered to be neutral units. That means if you move any neutral unit to an area with another neutral unit, no battle occurs. However, Danes are a separate faction, so if somehow you move the neutral units to the same area with Danes units, the land battle occurs immediately. If you move Danes to the new areas, remove pillage tokens from the areas which are now not adjacent to their current position and place them into areas which are adjacent to their new location. If they are in an area without any units, remove the control tokens from that area, and Danes will always destroy food and all buildings in that area. And finally, when you move to the winter season and you reveal the winter card, you have to feed your units. But first of all, remove the number of food tokens indicated on the card. In this case, it's 1 food token. So going to the map, each player has to remove 1 food token, and then each of your units will consume 1 food, except for the ruler. You can consume that food from any area you control, so here we have 1 food token and the other one. If you cannot feed all your armies, if there is any unit which is not fed, remove that unit from the map. So that's how we play Bretwalda. If you have any questions or comments, I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. If you like the series, please subscribe. You can even support the channel on the Patreon page or click the little button "Thank you" under the video to give us some symbolic support. You've been watching Game in a Nutshell. My name is Branislav Berec and hope to see you next time.